What's good, YouTube? Carify King here, Aqua Life Baby. You already know how it is. So today, guys, I wanted to bring you my updated Zorga deck profile for the Set 2 format. I've been testing this deck out quite a bit, just changing the build in it, and I've come down to this to the decision that Zorga is now definitely more of a toolbox deck, which I really like. You know, I finally can use that terminology in this in the game now. This is definitely more of a toolbox deck. There's a lot of different ideas, cards, and things that you can run in this deck, you know, to conform to your meta and what you kind of really want to see. Obviously, you want to, you know, obviously prepare for the Bruce and Bastion matchup. We recognize those are the two strongest decks in the game right now, and pretty popular as well, and easily accessible due to the trial decks and whatnot. So you really want to prepare for those matches, because those are pretty much what we're going to see in higher level of competition going forward with this format. Since this format, I think, is extending into December, we'll update it for lyrical for whatever purposes. But what you want to focus on is keeping the core of Zorga intact, making numbers that are hard for your opponent to guard. You know, as long as you have the core cards and the core pieces with the core play style, and that doesn't change, then you can kind of build around that and then add into more of your toolbox. But as long as you have the essentials in here, then you can start adding different things to your toolbox. So we're going to start off with the ride line. Same ride line as usual. Draw two, add a order when you ride, and then we have Zorga. The ride line has not changed at all. It's just solid. The trigger lineup, we're going with 4 heals. We're going with 6 crit and 5 fronts, and obviously the over trigger. Reason why we're doing the 5 front. One, I wanted to maximize on Frenzied Harris. She is the 20k front trigger. She's a 20k shield. This stops a lot of things. If you notice, like in Bastion and Bruce, you know, they can hit like 25, 28 pretty easily. Same with Orphis. Orphis can hit a static 30 with a column of tokens. This card, as long as they have a grade 3, just gives you that nice 1-card guard, to where you don't really need to worry too much about those types of numbers. So I want to max out on that, but I felt like the other front trigger was necessary, not only to protect certain things defensively to protect your front row, but I felt like I didn't really need draws in the deck. I mean, you can easily replace this with a draw trigger if you want to, but I just wanted to go with a little bit more of an aggressive trigger lineup. The 6 crits has been working out for me. I've been running 6 crits towards the end of set 1 anyways, and the 6 crits have really worked out for me. So I don't think I want to change from this lineup right now, but this can easily become a draw. This can become a crit. You can do this a front. This is like a flex trigger, but I like the extra front trigger in here. I like to make, you know, since we're a 3-attack deck, I like to make these numbers that really pressure the opponent, and combine with a card that we can give a static crit to as well. I think, you know, I like the front trigger in the build. But again, it's a flex trigger. Change it how you see fit. Yeah. So that's it for the triggers. Going into the grade 1s, obviously we got 4 perfect guards. Nothing to say about that. 4 of the where's my SP copy of it? 4 of the Rokenhunter. Rokenhunter is one of the best cards to come out, and I think he's definitely a 4 of. Right now, I know some builds run 3, but I think he's definitely a 4 of. What he does is when you call him to the board, you reduce the counterblast cost for Alchemagic by 1, and then anytime you act his other ability is anytime that you activate an order card during the turn, he's a 13k beater. A lot of times you're going to see utilizing him as a front row attacker, a really solid front row 13k attacker. 13k booster, just really strong. Putting 2 in the same column is a nice 26k, and with all like the power boosting and things that we have with this deck, you can definitely increase that number as well, you know, with GDR and other things. So definitely a very good card. Really love this card, and I will be getting another 3 SP copies of him as well. And then right now I want to bump him up, but I'm running 2 copies of Adamantius. Adamantius is still a really good card. Allows us to have some early game as well, being able to call him to the board, give something that extra 5k to make harder to guard numbers. Again, another card that you can continue to call to the board with, like, Regurgitation, with condensation and give that additional 5k somewhere else to make better numbers, to increase their guarding threshold, or force the guarding threshold to be a lot higher. So he's just a solid card overall. I definitely want to find room for another copy of him, but this is what I'm currently playing right now, testing, and it's been working out quite well. But again, like I said, I want to find room for him, so that's just a work in progress to find more room for him. And then going into the last grade ones, we have the order card Condensation. Still one of the best orders. I still think it's a strong 3 of in the deck. You could cut it down to 2, and it's been a consideration too, but it's still a strong 3 of. Just a Soul Blast to revive something and give it 5k. I think that's actually just definitely strong. Leading off the grade 2s, I have 2 of the order card, Nectar of Sensationalism. I like this card, and I kind of wanted to bump it to 3, but pretty much this card is a late game card, right? When you have it, it's free, and you give a rear guard. It has to be a rear guard. It can't be a Vanguard. It has to be a rear guard. Give it 5k for every 5 cards in your drop zone. If you have 5 or more cards in your drop zone, or 15 or more in your drop zone, that card gets an extra critical. So this is the type of cards you want to really alchemagic late in the game. Combining this with GDR is extremely good, giving the 10k, and then something else gets like 15k, so it's like a plus 25 to a column and an extra critical. Really good card for closing up the games. And again, this is another card that I probably want to increase to 3. I was playing him at 3, but I cut it down to 2 to make room for things, but definitely a really solid card. And then obviously the star, my star of the grade 2 lineup is Hendrina, Hindi Girl. Great card, reducing the Soul Blast cost. Her mill is actually a little bit more effective now. I would actually like to mill, just because when you mill, the more you mill, the later in the game that you take your deck, the better this card gets set up. And the way that you play Zorga is, you're going to be calling cards to the board with minimal commitment from hand. You're going to be pushing hard with your columns and pushing them and forcing them into late game. And then with her milling and setting up your drop zone for this card, you could set it up nicely, and then this card will be active at 15, ready to give something another 15k extra critical, or 20k, however the case may be. And then you go there. So she definitely helps set this card up a lot better. This is a card you probably want to keep in your drop zone, but if you have it in your hand, it's not bad either. But Hendrina's ability to mill is a lot better this set now, I think, because of Nectar, than it was previously. And then I'm also playing 2 of the Shark. Really, I'm just testing him out. On paper, he's a decent prospect. But so what you do is when you attack with him, you can Soul Blast 1. He gets 5,000 power and forces your opponent to guard with 2 or more cards from their hand. I think this is actually a very good card early game too, when you're going first or going second, you're pressuring. Having him out on the board is really nice. Late game, when you're doing alchemax stuff and you're combining with Nectar, forcing your opponent to drop 2 cards instead of just a PG, can be really clutch, especially if they're in the position of, okay, I got like 2 cards in hand, I can drop my 1 PG just to block that, then another PG. This card says no, and you need to commit 2, so this can take the last few cards out of their hand. So the prospect of this card is good. Again, it's in the lab, still needs to go through more testing, but I do play 2 copies because I do want to see this card, so I can put it in more different situations to play it. Alright, and then for grade 3s, I'm playing 4 copies of my favorite order, GDR. I wish this came SP, because I would definitely get 4. This is just, as long as you have Zorga, it's a front row, or you give 3 units 10,000 power. I usually just spread it to my front row to make my columns that much bigger. But sometimes, you got to, if you are playing against prison, or you just have like 1 column and you just it's a struggle, you can give it to Vanguard in another column or what, I guess. But Honestly, I just treat this as another Persona ride during the turn. This is the main card you want to set up. This card combos really well with pretty much every single other order that you're playing in the deck, which is why we're running 4, because this is like one of your main combo pieces that you want to utilize for pressure. And then the other grade 3, and I'm going to clear the field because I want to make sure that we can hit on him, is Regurgitation. In other words, I did pick up 2 SP copies, so I'm quite happy about that. Regurgitation. So, on paper, to me, this was one of the best cards to come out. I really do, and I do like this card. Reason why it's at 2 of is because in testing, it's solely dependent on what you have in your trash. Again, Hendrina can set this card up better. But it's also dependent on what your opponent has on the board. So if you're sitting here like, okay, I don't have any grade 2s in my front row, my opponent has a grade 2, okay, I can play this, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, Sniper grade 2, and drop 2, and then put 2 cards on board, right? But if they don't have any grade 2s and they just have grade 1s, then it's like, well, I can't revive my grade 2s now with this card because it has to be the same grade. So it really just depends on what your opponent has on board. And against in the Bastion matchup, it's really hard because I don't really see them playing grade 1s or grade 2s, and so you're just going to have grade 3s. So there is consideration to play the Hydraulic Ram. I'm just not playing him in this version deck, but there is consideration to play the Hydraulic Ram because this card is quite dead against in the Bastion matchup. But if you catch them lacking with like a trigger or something on the board too, then you could probably snipe that and utilize this card to get yourself a back row if you need it. But yeah, but against pretty much any other matchup, it's definitely pretty good. Gives Zorga some removal, but it's a card where you rather see it kind of late game, if anything, and utilize it when you need to get a board. Again, I don't think it's a 3 of right now. 2 of has been fine. Again, it's definitely a situational card. And I said you wanted to keep the core intact. And then obviously 4 copies of Zorga. And that would be the deck profile, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe. We got some more Digimon content coming out soon as well. But I definitely wanted to get this set 2 version of Zorga out to everybody as well. But this is Cardfight King, Aqua Life Baby. You already know what it is. And I'm out.